Hello, guys. Welcome to Sound of Manchester. My name is Anurag, and today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Mojo, popularly known as Mojo. But his name is Mohit Arora. He's representing the MUFC Red Devil NCR. Welcome, Mojo. It's lovely to have you, and we have Prathamesh, our usual suspect, as well. Firstly, welcome again. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm good too. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So, what I've heard from one of our third party person who was helping us communicate was you've been following Manchester United for almost over 4 decades now. That's what I've heard. So, I'm sure you must have seen.
Um,
Is that it?
I mean,
Or
not exactly 4 decades
yeah,
because that'll put me into something like 55-year old, but I'm
yeah,
not that old as yet.
yeah.
But yeah, since
80s.
1992,
Okay,
that's when I was lucky enough to get to England for my further education,
okay.
and that's when I started following them, and it's been United since.
Yeah, that I think you went in perhaps at the perfect possible time. Sir Alex was just about had
Right.
settled in. Cantona came in, and as they say, rest was history. And yeah, from there on, we've had some outstanding memories, Prathamesh. And now, from there, Sir Alex left. There were some turmoils. Now where we see in what we've seen in the last couple of years was it's we've been riding a different wave of emotions, hasn't it? So at one point it is high, at one point it is low. It's sort of people sort of sense Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might do something special, if not to the extent of a Sir Alex Ferguson, but some at one point it felt like he was up for something special, but hasn't been the case right now. But okay, but the current situation is not really bad, isn't it, Mojo? So we are third in the table. Potentially, we are technically, if we win our remaining the game that's available, we are second in the table. So it's not that bad as some fans think, isn't it?
See, I would say take it with a bit of caution. And the
Yeah,
reason why I say that is we've been here previously with Ollie and his teams, the amazing 11 or 12 games unbeaten run he went on when he
yeah,
was appointed as a caretaker manager. And that's somewhere we are getting to now, wherein, as far as the Premier League or the local domestic cups are concerned, we are having a decent run at it. But that the funny thing is, you go to all the fan channels and you listen to all the different opinions. I find it a little, a little disturbing that everybody is harping hopes about being second with the game in hand.
yeah.
Now that game in hand is versus Burnley.
Away to Burnley.
The date and the fixture of that is not yet finalized. So basically, we are not playing Burnley up until we have played Leicester the next game, Wolves the game after, and Aston Villa the game after. So for us to maintain that momentum and have that hope that if we win that game and have be second, basically leads us to believe that we'll be winning all the games that come to us before we play that game in hand.
Yeah,
So it's all nice to harbor the hope that we could be second with the game in hand, which is brilliant because that's where we are. But we need to be cautious that we have games to play before that game comes along. And when that Burnley game comes along, where we are in the table would ideally determine are we really in the top four, we are going for the title, we are third, or where we are. So we need to maintain the current form that we are in. We're just beginning to play some really good football. If the manager can make 9 changes and still have world class players on the pitch, that's something which shows me that improvement is being made. But it's been a mixed bag of a season, but we are gradually but surely getting there where we would like to be.
before I could bring Prathamesh in, one final word. I mean, not a final word, obviously, but where do you stand as far as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is concerned? Because I've never seen United fan base so partitioned
Yeah,
in my
it's
entire
very
life.
polar, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
it's very
bipolar.
polar. It's very bipolar right now. People are Ole in, people are Ole out. I think it's sort of a weird stance right now. I don't know. Honestly, I'm middle of the road. I just want to see the team win. Whoever comes in, whoever doesn't. It's a sort of weird take, I know. But where do you stand as far as that is concerned?
See, when Ollie came in, I will be honest enough in saying I wasn't too much of a fan of on hearing that news
Yeah,
because the the freshest news before Ollie came in was Ollie getting a
Cardiff.
sack at
Yeah,
Cardiff because he got, I mean, they were relegated. But then when he went on to that run of 11 to 12 games, it then became like, look, I mean, this guy definitely has some skills, because if given the right set of players, he can produce these kind of results. Which, I mean, let's be honest, the likes of Mourinho were failing at United at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that there was a lot of hope then, and then came a reality check, because we kind of nosedived that season where we could have easily qualified for top four. We barely scraped to the Europa League places.
Exactly.
Last year again, we went through the typical phase of how we were when the season before that finished, when Oli got finalized. Sorry, made a permanent manager,
Yeah.
because we were winning some, we were drawing, we weren't in a consistent run, about 5 or 6 wins at a time. And
Yeah.
then came Bruno, and
Yeah.
the moment Bruno entered, and I'll know a lot of United fans have echoed this, that Bruno signing is as good as the Cantona signing that Sir Alex made.
Yeah.
He's a catalyst for the team, which back then Cantona was. He makes things happen the way Cantona did. He makes the team tick the way Cantona did, and he, like the way Cantona used to. I mean, Bruno scores fantastic goals, and he just gets the entire club together. So I would then say that once Bruno came in, we went on another unbelievable run. I mean, I guess since then we've only lost 3 games in the Premier League, which
Yeah.
have been unfortunately this season. We haven't lost since Bruno came in, apart from the 3 games this season.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you're sitting on the fence. I would say, if I was to quantify as a typical United fan, then I would say, given how things are shaping up currently as of today, I would say I am about 75% all in. But had you asked me at the beginning of this season, I was like, oh boy, this is not looking good, because, and the reason why it wasn't looking good was because we got thrashed by Spurs, we lost to Crystal Palace,
Yeah.
we barely beat Brighton, and it was all doomsday upon us because we had a crap transfer window, and here we were thinking that, this is heading for a nightmare. But then, since the ship has stabilized, um, I still have nightmares about Martial missing that open goal against PSG. Otherwise, we would still be in
Seriously.
the Champions League. So it's a mixed bag. Ollie's had a mixed bag of tenure of last 2 years. But if you ask me, I'm 75% Ollie in, because I see a pattern of improvement in the squad, albeit, I mean, and if you hear a lot of fan channels, they say that you can figure out how Liverpool plays, you can figure out a strategy how Spurs plays, you can figure out a roadmap of how Pep wants his team to play. Whereas Ollie, people keep talking about him being a PE teacher, doesn't know his tactics and this, that, and the other. But frankly, tell me, you look at barring Liverpool, you look at a Spurs, you look at Chelsea, or you look at City. I'm not going to count Arsenal into this. Let's keep them out of it.
Yeah.
They all have different strategies in every game they approach. So Chelsea plays a different game depending upon the team they are playing. Similarly,
Indeed.
Pep has had to change his ways, primarily because he doesn't have Aguero available, or a Silva available, or Vincent Company at the back anymore. So he's had his key players go as well. So he changes his playing style for every team that he plays. So why is it so much of a problem when Oli changes his style, that everybody goes, hell, what is going on? He's a PE teacher. He doesn't have any tactics. If he was a PE teacher, he wouldn't go to Paris and give Tuchel a coaching lesson there.
Exactly.
So for me, fans need to calm down a little.
Precisely.
If the club has come out and said numerous times that, look, we're going to give Oli the time, and he's
Yeah.
got the time. He's beginning to shape up literally two parallel teams now. The one that played against Everton in the Carabao Cup versus the one that played against Leeds in the Premier League. So they are
Yeah.
literally two parallel teams. And God behold, our bench looked as strong as anybody in Europe in the Leeds team. You had
Indeed.
Pogba, Van de Beek, I think it was Greenwood on the bench as well.
Yeah.
So
Greenwood and Cavani.
Oli, yes, and Cavani, absolutely. So Oli needs to be given time. He's been given time, and I think things will turn around. But let's hope what happens in the January transfer window, will, in a long way, go to determine how the remaining part of the season would be, because we definitely need at least one signing, and we all know what position that is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, indeed. I think it's needless to even stress on what you've just mentioned there. So again, Mojo, some of the things that I've noticed, and I'm a part of, I think, 3 or 4 WhatsApp groups, Manchester United fan WhatsApp groups, and
Yeah.
whenever the lineup comes, I can see all people going, "Oh my God, Ole, what the hell are you doing?" I think it's almost like people have forgotten there was a pandemic which literally had such significant knock-on effects on the entire footballing ecosystem. Not
Yeah.
alone, not just Manchester United alone. And
Yeah.
people
Right.
irrelevant. It doesn't matter if they're getting 1 million a week, no, let alone 100 or 200K a week. It is too much football for anyone to cope.
Right.
Yeah.
He's actually been doing a fantastic job in terms of squad rotation. And sometimes, yes, we might have to see some names in the 11 which you might not fancy or one fan might not fancy, but what else can the manager do? I mean, it's better, right? Yeah, you see the likes of Liverpool who play such apparent high energetic football. They've lost how many players now because of the rigid
Yeah.
schedule. And as far, if you put it in that relative sense, I think in that sense, Ole has done actually a very good job in terms of squad rotation. And as you've
Yeah.
rightly put, he now has, like, there's a diamond working really well, and there is that 4-2-3-1 or 4-1-2-3, whichever way we want to put it.
Yeah.
Even that is working well now. So yeah, Prathamesh, it brings us to this, right? So even we've had our own reservations. We've had our own
Yes.
moments when we've bagged the manager to the core. I've had my moments where I really had to bang my head over to the wall and say, "Come on, what are you guys talking?" So
Yeah.
now we see some positivity, and as Mojo rightly said, there needs to be a little bit of caution to that wind. But the last 2 games have been incredibly promising, haven't it? Especially the Everton one. There was again a
Yeah.
little bit of skepticism, but I think the way the way our midfield worked out, despite all whatever the Pogba nonsense, that whatever is happening, I think our midfield worked out really well. Our attack, they missed some chances in the first 20-30 minutes, but they made up for it. Uh, it's there is it's I mean we could say it's going down the right lane right now, isn't it? It
Yeah.
could change, but yeah,
Yep. Yeah. Precisely. I think the first thing that you talked about the lineups, right? Before the Leeds, when the Leeds lineup came out, you could see
people
it
not
was
wanting
Michael.
Scott
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Yeah. It was. You could see literally on the television. You could see Michael Owen and you could see the other pundit as well. They were absolutely going. Yeah.
Paulins.
Paul. Yeah. It was. Yeah. Paul and so okay. How can you forget that? But they were absolutely ripping the Man United lineup apart. This has
They said it
always
was
been a
too
factor.
defensive.
Yeah, it was too defensive because as I said before, I felt that Scott took his job a bit too seriously of trying to shield the defense in a way. But I think he's that kind of fielder, that kind of midfielder. I think in last season, and I think even when Jose got him up, we saw that he has that bursting runs going forward. He is capable
And he finishes
of
well,
that,
doesn't he? Hmm.
and he finishes well. He scored some really good goals. The one against Norwich again last season, the 2000 Manchester United goal.
Yeah.
That was really good again. So we have seen shades of that from McTominay. We have seen how Fred has developed from Ole's first day to what he is today. And you've seen several players who have actually done well in their positions. Players like Luke Shaw who get a lot of stick, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he was one of the better players last season. I think probably he's also started this season
Yes.
pretty well. So I think there is a certain way at which Ole looks at a game of football. I think Mojo said it really rightly that except for Liverpool, there are teams who are having to change the strategies, which is nothing wrong at all. They have a little philosophy that they go with, and from there you need to alter because your players first of all need to understand what roles they have within the team, which I feel in the last 2 games especially they've understood really well. They've gelled into the system well. They've accepted that there are certain things that they might not do or they might have to do, which they did against Leeds. You don't really say that some team has run more than Leeds. I think the Chelsea game was another game where Leeds were outran by Chelsea and Chelsea won that game. And that is precisely what we did against Leeds. We outran them and we took our chances really well. And even Dan James said in the interview, didn't he? Like he knew that there were going to be spaces that there was nothing that in the midfield that was going to be populated. Once you get that ball out of the back four, you are in 1v1 against the defenders, and then more often than not, the skill of the players that we have, we're going to win the game. And that is exactly what we did against Everton. Again, we started really well. We kept fighting until the end, and we got two really late goals. I saw in the morning on Twitter that we were really lucky to win the game. I don't understand how when you're lucky when you're 65% of possession and majority of the shots on goal. Thankfully to that, I feel I got a little bit of peace in that sense. I'm not on any of the WhatsApp groups right now. I'm just keeping that positivity within myself to myself, but it really helps. And again, as Mojo said, you have to be extremely cautious because Burnley are not an easy cake at all.
And the
Uh,
next few fixtures
aren't
I
really
mean,
kind.
yeah, it's
Yeah, they
yeah.
aren't really kind either. Leicester are playing some beautiful football. They gave Jose a taste of his own medicine at the Tottenham Hotspur
I wouldn't
Stadium.
really term it beautiful, but it's definitely effective. Yeah,
Yeah, it is effective.
yeah,
We have seen Leicester do a job over Leeds again at the
yeah.
start of the season. That was another fantastic performance for
They
them.
did it against City,
They
Man
did
City
it
as
against
well.
City. They scored five at the Etihad. So that in itself is a feat.
Yeah,
So we must not underestimate the way they're playing. We must not underestimate the way players
absolutely.
like Fofana, players like Mendy have taken on. Vardy obviously loves scoring goals, and we know the speed of our back four. So that's going to be an issue again. So we have to keep all these things in mind. We have to keep Burnley in mind how physically they play. We have to see Wolves. Wolves like to counter. So it will probably be another counter punch kind of a game. So let's not assume anything. Let's keep the positivity. I feel we can just keep that in. We know that Olier definitely understands his game. Sir Alex even used to say that he was one of the few rare players that who would actually make notes when he was sitting on the bench so that he could understand the game. I know people call him a PE teacher for saying probably that football manager helped him learn the game a little bit about management. But I have played football manager myself. I know it's a very difficult game for someone who has never learned anything about coaching. So it is not as simple as you think. So it's a decent game. It helps you understand a few things from a very novice perspective, maybe, but it helps. And he has definitely done his job. And I have this Ole jersey with me, so I'm definitely going to back him till the moment he's here at Manchester United, which I hope is a long time.
Yeah,
Where I stand in Ole and Ole out, I feel is as you are, somewhere in between. I neither Ole in, neither Ole out. I feel like what is most important is how the club's performing with him,
yeah.
and people will turn on him as soon as things go wrong. People will praise him highly as soon as things go right, but it's consistency that I feel is
Adding to that, Prathamesh,
yeah,
yesterday, having missed all those chances, had, Gylfi Sigurdsson just about crept in that free kick or,
yeah.
just some scrappy goal of someone's back for Everton, I think we would have seen an entirely different mood. I mean, that would have really put to bed the excitement of 3-4 wins yesterday's performance.
Totally,
Yeah,
and let's not forget the media likes writing about United. That's the club
yeah,
that pays them the
that's
most
big
money
club. Yeah,
for writing about football.
Right.
It's so easy to write about United and get away with anything. So that's important. Let's also take that into consideration. But let's keep our positivity and let's be alert to what's coming up because that's really good. And Mojo, I want to hear more from you about this because I or me or Anurag didn't really have the pleasure of watching Eric Cantona back in the day. So, considering you have, and you talked about Bruno Fernandes and the kind of impact that Bruno has had, a little bit of a spot on you on this one. But what do you think is eventually? I think Eric Cantona's legacy also has the fact that he won the league with United. So that is something that will stay on for a long time. So, what kind of impact are you expecting Bruno in that consideration now going forward in the future?
See, you look at how United have worked ever since Bruno came in.
Yeah,
He's been the central figure for
yeah,
the link that you had. I mean, you consider the likes of Pereira and Lingard, for example,
yeah,
where we just didn't have any creativity.
yeah,
And creativity basically leads yourself towards finding that space by your own running off the ball, point one. Point two, creativity then also comes along with the fact that how can you release the players who are trying to make run in the box? And we have heard this time and time again. Bruno Fernandes is a risk taker. I would
yeah,
rather have a risk taker because Cantona was the same. Cantona would
yeah,
always look for a ball, to pass. He wouldn't, for once, be looking at somebody to pass the ball back to because he thought that's a safer option for me. Cantona always moved forward. He always ran with the ball with himself, the ways at times we've seen Bruno do as well. So those are the few things which are very common with Cantona in the sense that he runs with the ball. His Off the ball movement is almost the same as Cantona's. Third, he likes to take risks. And fourth, Cantona came in at a United side when the class of 92 were just beginning to be bred in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the likes of Cantona, Elskis, and a few others were the center point in helping those young guys to come in and understand United and understand football at that level.
Yeah.
Now we've seen Bruno guide a lot of other players what position they should be in, what position should they be running towards when the gameplay is developing in any particular manner. So therefore, you have a person who's trying to guide his team, the person who's trying to lead his team by advising people what positions they should take, where should they be running into spaces. For example, in one of the shots against the Leeds game, after
Yeah.
Bruno scored, he was seen advising Dan James
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
run-ins that he needs. Those are the four characteristics which immediately come to mind in terms of how similar effect Bruno is having to that of Cantona. There is leadership, there is forward play, there is some
Yeah.
excellent off the ball movement, there is taking risks, and these are the things which Cantona had.
Yeah, Ryan Giggs, I think he once said, we were a good team, but Eric Cantona made us great. I think Bruno, he's had a pretty much similar sort of an elevation effect on the current team.
No,
And
I'll counter that. I'll
yeah,
just have a different view on that.
yeah.
We were
Okay.
quite a useless team. Bruno started making us a little decent.
Yeah, yeah, I
Because
think,
I mean,
yeah,
it came to a point when I was sick and tired of seeing the Pereiras and the Lingards on the team
Yeah.
honestly,
sheet
yeah,
because you knew there will be no forward passing. You
yeah.
knew there'll always be side passes, there'll be backward movement, and there'll be some crazy passes they'll try and make which are not realistic. They'll lose the ball, and then God behold, God knows what's going to happen from there. A lot of people say that, with all due respect to Lingard, he had certain personal problems last year.
Yeah,
But then, if you think about it, Lingard's best year was when Rooney was still in the team. You had Ibrahimovic there, and you had senior experienced playmakers where he could still look good.
yeah.
Since those two went out, and it was left to Pereira and Lingard, well, we all know what the hell happened then.
Yeah, precisely the point that you mentioned. Every time, one of the games that I can remember last season when we went to City and defeated City 2-1. It was at the start of the season, I think so.
Right,
Yeah.
That was one of
right.
those rare games where he looked half decent. But even in that game,
Mhm.
I could see so many times on the counter we had people going forward. There were so many spaces, but Lingard was one of those players who was not going to put his head up, and he was not, maybe not, in that scenario, if it was Bruno, he makes himself that time to have a look around 180 degrees, see the passes. He does it also quick, and he manages to take those risks, as you rightly put. And one of the most outstanding goals for me this season was when Bruno made that outstanding no look pass to Rashford in that Leipzig game, if you remember. Like, he was
Yeah.
already
Right.
making that run. He found him. This is the exact
Yeah.
thing, the creative presence which we never had over the last, I think, towards the end of the Mourinho period or the early Ole period. I think that's where Bruno
You
really
know,
elevated us.
you're absolutely right in terms of creative genius, but at the
Yeah,
same time, we also talk about, a lot of this particular term has been used a number of times, like a football intelligence.
yeah,
Yeah.
Now, if you look at yesterday's game, there were a lot of there were a number of times when Maguire was actually carrying the ball into the Everton half,
yeah.
and because Bruno knew that whatever he was trying
He
up
was
until
going back.
the
Yeah, he was tracking back.
76 minute wasn't working, he was back there with Matic and
Yeah,
with Konzibi
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
trying to hold the defense that should Everton counter, then there's sufficient cover at the back. That is football
Yeah.
intelligence. When you know that today you're not being the creative force which you usually are, but then you find a way in terms of contributing to the team's winning.
yeah. Exactly. That was one of the things that I think there was a discussion on, why is Bruno just getting in so deep. But again, that's what the man does, isn't he? He eventually wants to contribute to win. It's not through a goal, it's not through an assist, it could be through anything, and that's exactly what we need. And as far as that is concerned, one of the players that I really, really personally liked in the last 2 years, especially as a journalist, I was watching Bundesliga a bit too keenly, and I felt Jadon Sancho was one of those players who was elevating an okayish Dortmund side to far better heights. He was one of those creative presence in that side who was making the likes of Brandt. Yeah, these are great players. These are decent, talented players, Thorgan Hazard and all of them. But Sancho was one of those driving forces of that team who made all of the others look good. And there,
Yeah,
once Sancho's form has slightly dipped, you can see what's happening to Dortmund right now. Uh, we failed big time, didn't we, Mojo? And as far as that transfer is concerned, I know people right now are taking solace in the fact that we are
yeah,
thankful we didn't get him. But again, that was a huge transfer failure, wasn't it?
See,
Yeah,
I don't know. See, I have. I'll be honest enough in saying that post the Sancho episode,
yeah,
I have literally stopped following United's transfer activities because I've just concluded that whoever comes into the club holds the shirt. Welcome, because the more and more I follow these news on social media, it does my head in. I
exactly.
yeah,
just let go. I mean, if tomorrow United were to announce that look, we have reached an agreement with Sancho, I'll be like, look, guys, announcement. Let the announcement come. Let him hold the shirt, and then I'm buying
Yeah,
that news.
yeah,
Um, but on a Sancho, just I'll just take 30 seconds onto it. You know, when
yeah,
we keep saying that Sancho's mind is, he wanted to come to United and he's not in the right frame of mind. His
yeah,
form has dipped as a result at Dortmund. Now consider this: Dortmund were asking 120 million euros to
yeah,
sign Sanchez when he was in his peak. And in his peak, United were valuing him at about 80 to 85 million.
yeah,
So in euros, that is. So
yeah,
that's easily about 30 euros less of a value that United were seeing in him as compared to what Dortmund were when Sancho was in his peak.
yeah,
Today, Sancho, in his decline, not in his decline, but not in the right frame of mind, not performing well, and probably by next summer having 1 year lesser on his contract, I don't think United are going to offer anything more than 50 million.
yeah. Yeah, but again,
So it's,
yeah,
I mean, it's,
yeah. Please continue.
you go on, go on. No, no. So I was just saying, I really don't know what this summer will hold. But I would rather think that now that we are talking about signings, January is what, a good
Yeah,
week away.
yeah,
There's news about this guy from South America, Casadio, coming in, and I mean, if he comes in, most welcome. But I would rather say that if we have energies and if we have discussions going on anywhere, I would rather say that, look, guys, we need a centre back because Lindelof and Maguire
no,
are
they're
not
not
going
going
to help
anywhere.
you see off the 40 remaining games of the season.
Absolutely not. Yeah,
If you think that you're going to challenge the Carabao, the FA Cup, the Premier League, if we say that we are in the title race, and if we think that Europa League is something that we want to challenge for, or if the top four is something we want to challenge for. So basically, we have five things on our plate which we are going to manage with just two first choice centre backs. I just don't think we'll be able to see out the season.
yeah. And Anurag also, it's not going to make sense if we sign another player at the caliber of 30-40 million of a Lindelof or someone of quality of a Maguire either. We need someone who elevates the standards, right? We need someone like City signed Laporte a couple of seasons
we
before. And
basically we need a quick
yeah,
defender. We need a
we,
quick
we
I think
need
we
we
have
need
those
someone like,
solid
yeah,
heads. I think we have enough of them. We need.
yeah.
I think
Right.
We need,
Lindelof and Maguire are too similar in their way, and with the current, if you look at Premier League space right now, I think from 1 to 20, every team has one of those players on
yeah,
counters. They are gonna make Maguire and Lindelof cry. Literally, every
yeah.
team has
Right.
two players like that.
Right.
Exactly. So we need to sign someone like Upamecano. We have talked a lot about, right? Like how in the summer his release clause is going to be activated. Whether Ole wants to wait until the summer to sign. There has been strong rumors by Mark Goldbridge about David Alaba, who again is very mobile as a centre back, can play multiple positions. We know that, but is he a pure centre back again? That's the question mark that people are asking because in Bayern and in Germany, the things are different. It's
Yeah,
not as physical as it is in the Premier League. So whether Alaba would be able to
Right.
get through that is a question. Whether his wages will be an issue is a question mark. Whether his agent fees are going to be an issue is a question mark. Whether United want to wait till the summer is a question mark. Again, I think Saicedo is a 4.5 million transfer, so I'm betting that United will get him over the line and not really do something wrong there. But a lot of talks about Diallo as well, which again I feel is going to be a
I
huge
think it's something related to
benefit.
his work permit, which is sort of halting the process. But what I'm hearing is apparently maybe midway through January he'll be here. That's the current talk.
No, I mean, centre back is a priority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Um, we have Lindelof and Maguire. A very interesting analysis is that the entire season of last year in the Premier League, that is, we
yeah,
conceded just 36 goals. This season, we're not even halfway through. We've conceded 19.
yeah,
So there is definitely work to be done on strengthening the defense because barring Lindelof and Maguire, you have Bailly, who is another 2 games away from an injury. You have Tuanzebe, who God knows is again 2 or 3 games away from an injury, and then God behold, you land up with the likes of Rojo and Jones.
Oh yeah.
And I think for the way for the way certain players were treated, given the current situation, I would so much love if we don't have the money to spend. I would so much love for Smalling to have stayed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much agree there. But as Prathamesh, you brought out Upamecano and also Alaba. I think I'll just having watched Bundesliga a little more closely in the last 2 years. One thing I can tell you, Upamecano is one of those players who's is I think as far as centre backs go, he's one of the most risk-taking centre backs. He loves to go. He loves to drive through the middle. He loves to dribble past midfielders.
Yeah.
That's the sort of a risk-taking centre back that he's one of those swagger centre backs. And if he comes in, I think that's going to put Maguire's place in a little bit of trouble because Maguire and Upamecano, both of them who love to bomb forward. I think that wouldn't really,
Yeah.
would make it would make Lindelof more of a favorite to be in the 11. No, that's a different analogy. But again,
Yeah.
as far as Alaba is concerned, again, as you've rightly put, he's played in different positions. That
Yeah.
can be helpful as well.
That can be helpful,
It can be
especially
helpful,
when,
but
yeah,
as of now,
especially
we
when
don't know.
we
Yeah,
have so many games coming up. But
yeah,
thing is, right, we have so many midfielders in the team, so I don't really see Alaba going into midfield and then dislodging someone. We
yeah,
already have a couple of left backs with Shaw and Tellis who are going to be there for a while. So I don't really see Alaba playing anywhere else but centre back. So that was something that I really want to know how that fits in then. So if you
yeah.
don't see Alaba as a centre back, what do you see him as? And then why do you see him as something else? And why not then rather wait in the summer, go for Upamecano if that's going to be the deal? And Smalling, you rightly said Mojo, because I feel stunned how players like Rojo and Jones can still be at the club and Smalling left. Because I remember,
Oh, that
I
is.
remember under Louis Van Gaal's second season, Smalling was almost like the captain at one point, and
Yeah.
he had a
Yes.
really decent season. And I don't think it was very bad under Jose either. I think he was a pretty decent player, definitely better than Rojo and Jones. So I don't know how it ended up with Smalling being going out, because I remember when this is a little far fetched, but when I got FIFA 20 on my system, I just made sure that Smalling did not leave, but Jones and Rojo left the club. That's
Yeah,
how
that's an easier thing to
anti.
do, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
an easy thing to do. So that's something which I don't know. You don't understand. I think Smalling probably
See,
also had a change of heart. Probably that is one of the
Smalling
reasons.
is chances are bound to reach once you have a 85 million defender walk the club, a 30 or 40 million defender like Lindelof walk the club, then you know that you're automatically going to be a third or a fourth choice.
Yeah.
So that Smalling wasn't willing to do, and so he moved. But honestly, yeah, I mean, if it's um, am I have I lost the connection?
No, no, no.
No.
We can listen to you. We can
Um,
listen. Yeah.
if it's any signing this January transfer window, God, please, nice centre back.
Before I wrap up and bring the final question to Mojo, I think just a little bit I'd want to tell about Smalling. I think, yeah, in relative sense, in hindsight, right now, we might feel a little bit like that. But again, yes, that is very much true. Even I feel that way right now. But I think maybe we wanted the club to elevate, but by letting people like Smalling who were not maybe up to the billing, But then again, what made it sort of a little more hypocritical is people who are far below the level of Smalling were still at the club. I think that's what didn't help our cause. So yeah, again,
That
we can talk about it a lot again. But Mojo, uh, the next few fixtures are going to be incredibly difficult. I think, needless to say, I'm not going to ask you for a prediction, but on a personal level, in a long, long time, I have never looked forward to a Liverpool game as much as I'm looking forward to now. I know that could end up very badly
Yeah.
if there is a very good chance that things could go exactly the opposite way of what I would hope for or we would hope for. But is it the same with you? Are you really looking forward to that Liverpool game now, or is it a bit too far fetched right
uh,
now?
no, no, it's nothing about being far fetched. Liverpool games are something that a United fan would always
Yeah,
look up to. I mean, even during the time that we were in the doldrums,
yeah,
under Mourinho's negativity in his second season, and the Van Hal's go to bed kind of a playing style. What I would say is that Liverpool games are always the ones you look forward to, irrespective of
absolutely.
how good or bad the team is, how many injuries you have, what form you're in. Everything goes out of the window.
Yeah,
But if I look at it this season, I'm a person who doesn't believe in predictions because
yeah.
whenever I've tried to, it's always not always, but the probability is very high that it comes and smacks me in my face. So I just look forward for good games to come along. Um, the good part about when the Liverpool game is coming is that once we are done with these fixtures, the Leicester, Aston Villa, and Wolves, and then the Man City Carabao Cup game. So we have these four games coming up in the next part of about 10 days.
Yeah.
Then there's a break of about 8 to 10 days. So the Liverpool game comes after the small break that we would, the team would have had. But then that break also, I think, comes along with for all the teams. So they get about a week, 10 days off,
Also, just a
and then they
point
kick
to
off
add.
again.
Apparently, one of the things that I've been hearing from some journalists is that 8 to 10 period break that you mentioned, FA also might end up adding that Burnley game, which is left out. It potentially could get added there. That is one of the talks right now.
I mean, even if it does, so one game in 8 to 10 days is not bad. So it
Yeah,
gives the
Yeah.
players, a decent amount of rest, and then you are, back up and running. Now, consider a situation that we have decent outings against Leicester, Wolves, and Aston Villa,
yeah,
and we are there or thereabouts in the top three or top two,
yeah,
and then this Burnley game comes along.
Yeah.
That makes Liverpool game. I don't know. I mean, 6 months ago, I couldn't even think of it that if we were to beat Liverpool then, you're looking at being at top of the league.
yeah,
But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's first address what's immediately in front of us, which is the next four games, extremely tough fixtures, which is Leicester, Wolves, Aston
Aston
Villa,
Villa.
and then City in Carabao Cup, because that's going to be a one-leg game. I mean, given the
Yeah.
Yeah,
fixture congestion and COVID and everything, they're not going to be played over two legs. So that one-leg game is it's decent. So these four games, let's look up to that. Let's hope we do perform well, come out of them unscathed and with positive results. And then Burnley game with that 10 days gap. Oh boy, that Liverpool derby is going to be big.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that is quite a fine way to wrap it up. Firstly, thank you so much, Mojo, for joining. I think this was,
Yeah.
it's always fun to talk about, sit and talk about football. But when you talk to someone who's seen a lot more of Manchester United than what we have, I think it just adds more delight to the conversation. Thank you so much for joining. And Manchester United fans, I know this season has been a little topsy turvy, but there are some good things to look out for, hopefully, and hopefully Ole and his players give us something more to celebrate. Hopefully, this is going to be one heck of a 10-15 days, and
Yeah.
whatever happens, it could happen. But firstly, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all our viewers. Do not forget to subscribe to Sound of Manchester and also follow all our pages on Instagram, Facebook, and also do check out MUFC Red Devil NCR on Instagram. I think that you would not be disappointed by doing so. Thank you so much again for joining. We'll be back soon. I know even it's been difficult for us to cover all the games, but we'll be doing a weekly again. Until
Yeah.
then, thank you so much.